Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Radha Gopinatha, Radha Gopinatha, Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadramaya. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Chai, Beauty Founder Chai, Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Antakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namashwara Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sako Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Marpu Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Marani Ki Jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Dai Gaur Pemanande, all glorious assembled devotees. All glories to Samudevaris. All glories to Samudevaris. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, titled Dhritarashtra Quits Home, text number 11. Apina suhridastata. Apina suhridastata. Bandava Krishna Devataha. Bandava Krishna Devata. Drishta Shruta Vayadava. Drishta Shruta Vayadava. Sapuryam Sukham Asate. Swapuryam Sukham Asate. Apina Suhridastata. Bandava Krishna Devata. Drishta Shruta Vayadava. Swapuryam Sukhamasate. Apina Suhridastata. Bandava Krishna Devata. Drishta Shruta Vayadava. Swapuryam Sukhamasate.
Bandava Krishna Devata. Bandava Krishna Devata. Krishna Shruta Vayadava. Krishna Shruta Vayadava. Swapuryam Sukhamasate. Swapuryam Sukhamasate. Apina Suridastata. Apina Suridastata. Bandava Krishna Devata. Bandava Krishna Devata. Krishna Shruta Vayadava. Krishna Shruta Vayadava. Swapuryam Sukhamasate.
Matisse. Apina Suridastata.
Bandava Krishna Devata.
Bandava Krishna Devata.
Krishna Shruta Vayadava.
Krishna Shruta Vayadava.
Swapuryam Sukhamasate.
Swapuryam Sukhamasate.
Apina Suridastata.
Apina Suridastata. Bandava Krishna Devata.
Krishna Shruta Vayadava. Swapuryam Sukhamasate.
Word for word translation. Api, whether. Na, are. Suhrida, well wishes. Tata, O my uncle. Bandavaha, friends. Krishna Devata, those who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Shri Krishna. Drishtaha, by seeing them. Shrutaha, or by hearing about them. Va, either. Yadavaha, the descendants of Yadu. Sapuryam, along with their residential place. Sukham asate, if they are all happy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. My uncle, you must have visited Dwarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, who are always wrapped in the service of the Lord Sri Krishna. You might have seen them or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes? Purport. The particular word Krishna Devata, i.e. those who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Sri Krishna, is significant. The Yadavas and the Pandavas, who were always wrapped in the thought of the Lord Krishna, and his different transcendental activities, were all pure devotees of the Lord like Vidura. Vidura left home in order to devote himself completely to the service of the Lord. But the Pandavas and the Yadavas were always wrapped in the thought of Lord Krishna. Thus there is no difference in their pure devotional qualities. Either remaining at home or leaving home, the real qualification of a pure devotee is to become wrapped in the thought of Krishna favorably, i.e. knowing well that Lord Krishna is the absolute personality of Godhead. Kamsa, Jarasan, Shishupal, and other demons like them were always wrapped in the thought of Lord Krishna. But they were absorbed in a different way, namely unfavorably, or thinking him to be a powerful man only. Therefore, Kamsa and Shishupal are not on the same level as pure devotees like Vidura, the Pandavas, and the Yadavas. Maharaj Yudhishthira was also always wrapped in the thought of Lord Krishna and his associates at Dwarka. Otherwise, he could not have asked all about them from Vidura. Maharaj Yudhishthira was therefore on the same level of devotion as Vidura, although engaged in the state affairs of the kingdom of the world. Om Jnanatimrandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class today. So, over the past week we've been hearing about how after previous chapter was titled The Birth of Emperor Parikshit. So, and then towards the end of that chapter we heard how Maharaj Yudhishthira, he was performing a sacrifice to get rid of the sinful reactions that he thought he accumulated by taking part in the battle of Kurukshetra. So, and then it's mentioned that Krishna, he also invited Krishna from Dwarka to also come and partake in the sacrifice to make sure everything goes proper. And then after that's finished, in this chapter we're hearing from Sutta Goswami how after the sacrifice is finished, then it's mentioned then Vidura, he returns back to Hastinapur. So the past week you were hearing about the background, the history about Vidura, who he actually is. Vidura is actually Yamraj himself. Yamraj taking birth on this earthly planet. So Yamraj, we heard the story about how Yamraj had gotten a curse from Manduka Muni, and this Rishi, he cursed Yamraj, because you don't know what's right or wrong, you don't have proper intelligence. I curse you to take birth from the womb of a Shudra. And we're also hearing how Prabhupada, he also mentions that actually, Yamraj, he's no ordinary person, he's a pure devotee of the Lord. He is a Mahajan. So this cursing was actually all arrangement of Krishna. And it's mentioned that Yamraj, he had this great desire to preach, He's always stuck in Yamaloka, having to punish so many sinful living entities. So Yamraj had a desire to get out from there and, preach on planet Earth. So that's why Krishna, he arranged this opportunity. And also, through this, Krishna gave Yamraj an opportunity to partake in Krishna's earthly pastimes. So as we all know, Krishna appearance on planet Earth is a very rare thing. Only once in a day of Brahma does Krishna come. So in one day of Brahma, there's 1,000 Divya Yugas. And each Divya Yuga goes for 4.32 million years. So 1,000 times that's like 4.32 billion years. So only once in 4.32 billion years does Krishna come. So it's a very rare thing. So that's why Krishna, he, through this scene of Yamaraj getting cursed, Krishna arranged for Yamaraj to also take birth in planet Earth, so Yamaraj could also participate in Krishna's pastimes on Earth. And then we are hearing how Maharaj Yudhishthira and the Pandavas were, with such great love and affection, they were receiving Vidura. So it's mentioned when they saw Vidura, it's as if, their life came back to their very bodies. It's as if, they were dead bodies and finally life came back to them, consciousness came back. So from this we see, how much Vidura was dear to the Pandavas. He was so dear because Bhagavatam explains that through so many instances throughout the Pandavas' life, Vidura was always there to help them, always there to protect them. And recently we were hearing from Prabhupada Vishnu Prabhu the story of how once the Pandavas there in the house made some flammable material, and Vidura arranged for them to be saved. Like this, there's many instances given in Mahabharata. Vidura was constantly, always looking after the Pandavas. And because he's a pure devotee of the Lord, naturally, there's so much affection the Pandavas have for Vidura. And in today's verse, Maharaj Yudhishthira is inquiring from his uncle. My uncle, you have visited Dwarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, who have always wrapped in the service of Lord Shri Krishna. You might have seen them or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes? So in today's verse, Maharaj Yudhishthira, like previously Maharaj Yudhishthira was asking, how was your trip, how was your trip of going to holy place of pilgrimage? Because we're hearing the story how because of Duryodhana's insult, Vidura had left Hastinapur and he just went took Vanaprastha, he just went out for pilgrimage. And one important point Prabhupada mentions, Vidura is a pure devotee of the Lord, so he's beyond, insult and praise. Like Krishna, he mentioned in the Gita that a pure devotee of the Lord, one who is a liberated soul, for him, insult, praise, it doesn't affect him. He sees them equally. So how should we see this, that, Vidura, he got insulted and he left. So actually, Prabhupada mentions, Vidura didn't technically leave because he got insulted by Duryodhana. No, he just took it as an opportunity. He was seeing, for so long, so many years, he was trying to give Dhritarashtra good counsel, but nothing was working. So he just took this as an opportunity to do better devotional service. So he was thinking, what's the point of me staying here trying? Duryodhana, he's never going to listen to me. Dhritarashtra never going to listen to me. I think I can better engage my senses in Krishna service in a different way. So he just took that as an opportunity to engage in Krishna service in a different way, and that's why he left. He didn't technically leave because he got offended by Duryodhana's insult. Although some hurt was there, but he didn't take it so seriously. Because, as we hear from Gita, that pure devotees of Lord, they're beyond, mundane insult, praise, things like that. So, previously, Maharaj was inquiring, how was your trip to the holy places? Where did you stay? Was your accommodation nice? Like that he was inquiring. Now, in today's verse, inquiring that you must have also visited Dwarka in your travels. And Maharaj Yudhishthira, as Prabhupada is mentioning in today's purport, Maharaj Yudhishthira was always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and Krishna's devotees. So he's naturally inquiring, how is our dear Krishna doing? How is my cousin Krishna along with his wives and children? How are they going in Dwarka? So he's asking about their well-being. And Prabhupada in today's purport, he pretty much dedicates the whole purport to two words in the verse. So it's mentioned Krishna Devata. So these two words are used to describe the Yadavas, or Krishna's associates. So Krishna Devata means those who are always wrapped in the service of Lord Shri Krishna. So today's whole purport, Prabhupada is discussing about this theme. How the qualification of a pure devotee is that he's always absorbed in thinking about Krishna. Not even for a moment does his consciousness deviate from Krishna. And Prabhupada writes, that's the actual qualification. So if someone fulfills this, then he's a pure devotee of the Lord. And Prabhupada, he makes a comparison in today's purport. So there is Vidura on one hand, then there is the Pandavas, and then thirdly there are the Yadavas, or the Krishna's, family men in Dwarka. So on one hand we have the Yadavas, they are always in close proximity of Krishna, always physically very close to Krishna. They're living in the same city as Krishna every day, they get to talk to him, hear him, and engage, in activities with him. On the other hand, we have the Pandavas and Vidura, and both of them, they don't have so much, although for some time Krishna was personally present with the Pandavas, But now Krishna has left, and now the Pandavas, they're not in close proximity with Krishna. And same with Vidura. He doesn't have the personal association with Krishna physically. But Prabhupada mentions, still all three, they're all on the equal level of devotional service. It's not that, the Yadavas, because they're living with Krishna in the same city, they're more higher. No, Prabhupada says, the qualification to judge one's devotional qualification, the qualification to judge one's advancement in spiritual life is how much he's absorbed in Krishna. And that has nothing to do with being physically close with Krishna. One can be far away from Krishna, but simply by remembering his activities, by meditating and hearing and chanting about him, one can be absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. Now the comparison Prabhupada makes is between Vidura and the Pandavas. So Prabhupada writes, on one hand we have Vidura. He has taken vanaprastha. He has given up all of his worldly duties, managemental affairs in the kingdom, and he's just, dedicating himself full-time to devotional service, going on yatra, going to all the holy places around India. So on one hand, we have a devotee like Vidura, who has renounced everything, renounced his family, renounced his kings, renounced his job, occupation, everything. Renounced all ties with mature society and just gone vanaprastha, gone to a forest, gone to different places of pilgrimage. On the other hand, we have the Pandavas, Maharaj Yudhishthira. They're still engaged in mature duties. They're still running a whole kingdom. They're still involved in politics. They're still involved in so many different material affairs, So externally, it seems that Vidura is on a higher level of Krishna consciousness because, Vidura has given up all mature attachments. He's just gone on pilgrimage, whereas the Pandavas, they're engaged in so many material duties of taking care of the kingdom, fighting, politics, so many mature affairs. So externally, it seems that Vidura is on a higher level. But Prabhupada says, no, actually, Maharaj Yudhishthira and Vidura are on the same level of advancement. Because, again, Prabhupada goes back to the same qualification. The qualification of one's level of Krishna consciousness is how much he's absorbed in thinking of Krishna. So that has nothing to do with one's mature circumstances. One could be a vanaprastha, sannyasi, brahmachari, grahastha, renunciate, whatever one might be. If one is always thinking about Krishna, then that's it, he's advanced. It doesn't matter what his external situation is. So again, this another very nice analysis Prabhupada makes, that although Vidura and Pandavas, they seem, different, actually they're all both on the same level. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also mentions the same thing in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Kiba vipraktabhya nasti sudra kenayoy, ei Krishna tattva veta, say Guru hoy. So in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's South Indian tour, we are hearing about this a few weeks ago in the Sunday Feast class. So he meets Ramananda Roy. And Ramananda Roy, he's actually none other than Arjuna in Chaitanya Leela. So, and in this Leela, like in Bhagavad Gita, it's, Arjuna who takes the position as a student, and Krishna takes the position as teacher. Arjuna asks questions, and Krishna answers the questions. But here in Chaitanya Leela, they do a role swap. In the Chaitanya Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he becomes the student. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna becomes a student, and instead, he asks Arjuna or Ramananda Roy to be the teacher and answer his questions. And initially, Ramananda Roy, he's hesitant, Ramananda Roy is telling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how come you're inquiring about me? Instead, it should be the other way around. I should be taking your blessings. I should be learning about Krishna from you. You're a sannyasi, you're the supreme personality of Godhead. And look at me, I wasn't born in a Brahmana family. Actually, he was born in some other Shudra, Vaishya, some other family, not Brahmana family. So he was like this telling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I'm not born in any high-class family, I'm born in a low-class family. I'm just, and by my ashram, I'm a grahastha. And so how can I preach to you? How can I instruct you? Instead, look at you. You're born in a Brahmana family. So that's your varna. Plus your ashram is that you're sannyasi. So you're the head of all society. So instead, I should be one who's learning from you. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, no. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then quotes this verse, Kibha vipraktabhya nasti, sudra kenayoy, ei Krishna tattva vetas, say Guru hoy. In this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, it doesn't matter if one is a Shudra, Vaishya, Sannyasi, Brahmana, Grahastha, whatever. If one knows the tattva, if one knows the science of Krishna consciousness fully, then he is the Guru. It doesn't matter what his external circumstances. He could be a Shudra, he could be a Brahmana, Sannyasi, whatever, it doesn't matter. If he knows fully the tattva of Krishna, then he is Guru. So in this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu convinces Ramananda Roy, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he puts forward different questions, to Ramananda Roy. That's a whole another topic, but again, in that Leela, in CC, we hear again the same thing, that the qualification of a devotee is that he's always absorbed in thought of Krishna. Everything else is secondary. I think last week we were also discussing how Jara Bharat, when he started speaking to Maharaj Rahugana was surprised, with the amount of knowledge Jara Bharat had. So Maharaj Rahugana was asking, how come you know so much? Where did you get all this knowledge from? And Jara Bharat then replies, that it is not by austerity, sacrifice, by being a good brahmana, sannyasi, doing austerities, tapasya. It's by none of these things that one can get this knowledge, by one can get Krishna consciousness. No, it's only by bathing oneself with the dust of a pure devotee Lord, only then can one get bhakti, only then can one get Krishna consciousness. So, in relation to this, I was thinking of one nice pastime. So the next question is, that like in today's verse we're hearing how all of these personalities, the Pandavas, Vidura, Yadavas, although externally materially speaking, the circumstances are all different, they're all on the same level of devotionals, they're all attached to Krishna. So the next question, how can we also be attached to Krishna in the same way? What is it that all of these devotees have done that has made them so much absorbed in Krishna? And how can we also become absorbed in Krishna, just like Maharaj Yudhishthira, just like Vidura, like the Pandavas and the Yadavas? So one thing I was thinking about is, actually again and again the Shastras explain that to develop love for Krishna, to develop attachment and affection for Krishna, it all starts by hearing and chanting about the glories of Krishna. This is a fundamental principle. It is mentioned again and again in the Shastras. Like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is saying, that Brahmana, that, the jiva has been wandering throughout the entire universe from one planet to another planet, one species to another species, and only by, Guru Krishna Prasadapai Bhakti Lata Beach, only by the mercy of the Guru and Krishna does he get the seed of devotional service. So the next thing, how to water the seed so the seed fructifies and grows. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, the watering process of bhakti is hearing and chanting about Krishna. So this is the primary thing. Everything else is secondary. Everything else comes later on. But the primary is always hearing and chanting about Krishna. So one nice pastime I was thinking about is of Krishna, and there's one chapter in Krishna book, Krishna and the wives of the Brahmanas, the Smarta Brahmanas. So one time Krishna, him and his friends, him and his mates, they wandered off a bit far away from Vrindavan to another place, like another village, distant place. And at the start of that chapter it's mentioned how the cowherd boys, they started feeling hungry, and they start asking Krishna and Balaram, oh Krishna, Balaram, we're very hungry, please, can you arrange some food for us, our stomachs are burning with hunger. Oh Krishna, oh Balaram, please help us. And actually the acharyas mentioned that, like we hear, that to the consciousness of Vrindavan is, Krishna Sukha Hetu, that everything for the cause or everything for the pleasure of Krishna. The residents of Vrindavan don't have a single selfish desire for their own sense gratification. So externally it seems that the cowherd boys are asking Krishna to satisfy their senses, Oh, we're hungry, Krishna, Balaram, please satisfy our hunger. But actually the acharyas mentioned it's actually different. Actually the cowherd boys, they were thinking that Krishna and Balaram, they've been playing in the forest for so long, in the sun, they must be feeling very hungry, but they don't want to disturb us, so out of humility they're not saying anything. So let us fake hunger, and let us fake hunger. So in that way, Krishna and Balaram will also take, and their hunger will be satisfied. So that's the consciousness of the cowherd boys. So again we see how they don't have a single tinge of any selfish desire. So in this way they fake hunger, and they say, oh Krishna, Balaram, we're very hungry, please arrange for some food. And then Krishna Balaram says, okay. Krishna tells the cowherd boys, now just in the distance, there are some brahmanas doing some sacrifice, Vedic sacrifice to get some fruity result. You go and ask them, they can give you some food. But Krishna instructs them that first you mention Balaram's name, then you mention my name. Because Krishna, by Varna, he's like born from a Vaishya father and mother, Whereas Balram, he's the son of Vasudeva, who's like a Kshatriya. And he's like a great, king, like prince. So if he mentions Balram name first, then the Brahmanas, they would have more respect, they'll be more obliged to give something in charity, give some food. So the cowherd boys, they go, and first it's mentioned that, so there's like all these Brahmanas assembled doing this Vedic sacrifice. And first the cowherd boys, they come, and they first fold their hands in pranam to the Brahmanas, and they offer full dandavats to the Brahmanas. And if you just think about it, like, say you're doing some devotional service, and some little child just comes, like 7-year-old boy just comes, and children, and they just come in front of you, fold their hands, and just offer dandavats. What would be your immediate reaction, You immediately stop what you're doing, and say, oh, what is this you're doing? Please, stop. Don't offer obeisances. Why are you doing this? What do you want? What can I do for you? Naturally, your heart would melt, when you see little children coming and offering dandavats to you. But no, these Brahmanas, they were not actually devotees of the Lord. They were actually smartas. They were simply doing this sacrifice just to get some fruitive results to get elevated to heavenly planets. So even though there's this, small, beautiful young children coming, offering them dandavats, still they're unmoved. They don't even look at them. They just completely ignore them. They're so hard-hearted, cold-hearted. So again, they don't say anything. Then the cowherd boys stand up after offering obeisances, and then they say, that my dear Brahmanas, the God among all humans. So according to Shastra, the Brahmanas, they're like the head of the society, By their instruction, the whole society runs. Even the kings in the Vedic society, they'll take advice from the Brahmanas. So in this way, the cowherd boys, they're, trying to get their attention. So they glorify them. Oh, you're the God amongst all human beings. We have been sent by Krishna and Balram. Please acknowledge our presence, like this, the cowherd boys say. But again, the Brahmanas, they don't even look at them. They don't show them any acknowledgement, no attention, nothing. So thirdly, then again the cowherd boys, they say that, Krishna and Balram, they're very hungry. And surely, with little sarcasm, the cowherd boys, they, kind of jibe the Brahmanas by saying, surely, you're Brahmanas, you know all the Vedic principles, you know all the rules and the regulations, so surely you can give us some food. Krishna and Balram, they're very hungry. So according to Shastra, it's mentioned that if someone's very hungry, then they have the rightful, they're rightful recipients of charity. So one gives them charity, that's proper, and one will get benefit. So in this way, the cowherd boys are implying them, you're Brahmanas, you know all the Vedic principles. Here we have Krishna and Balaram hungry, so please, it's your duty to give them in charity. Again, the Brahmanas, they just ignored these cowherd boys. They don't say anything. Then again, fourth time, this time the cowherd boys, they try. They explain to the Brahmanas. They were thinking, okay, these Brahmanas, they're probably thinking that if we stop, our sacrifice and we start giving them food, then, our sacrifice will stop and we won't get the full benefit of the sacrifice. So then the cowherd boys, they start explaining to the Brahmanas different technical details of Vedic sacrifice. How in this particular sacrifice you're doing, if you stop and give us in charity, that won't ruin the sacrifice. The sacrifice will still go on perfectly. You still get the desired benefit. So don't worry about you not getting the, elevation to heavenly planets. If you stop the sacrifice and give us in charity, everything will be fine. But again, the Brahmanas completely ignore. So from this we see, how cold-hearted these Brahmanas are. So again, we see this point of the Shastras. It doesn't matter what one's external situation is. Although these Brahmanas, they went through Gurukul from 5 to 25, got trained as brahmacharis. They've studied all the Shastras. They've memorized so many slokas. They got, initiated into Vedic sacrifices. They know so much. But still, they're so cold-hearted, that, these small children coming, offering dandavats, speaking such sweet words, begging them, for charity because they're hungry. Still, they don't even acknowledge their presence. They just completely ignore them. So being disappointed, the cowherd boys, they go back to Krishna and Balaram and tell them what happened. And Krishna, what's Krishna's response? Krishna just laughs. He just laughs at them. And Krishna tells the cowherd boys that, actually when you go begging, it's expected that you get rejected. That's the nature of begging. Some people will give you, some people won't give you. That's the whole part of the occupation of begging. It's not that everyone you approach while you beg, they'll give you food, they'll give you money. No, the profession of begging, the part of the profession is that Some will reject you, some will give you. So that's just the nature of the game. So why are you guys so disappointed? Don't be so disappointed. Don't worry, it's all right. So my Guru Maharaj mentioned that, this, actually I think Prabhupada also mentions Krishna book, that this, we should learn, this is a great lesson for all Sankirtan devotees, that when we go out on book distribution, we should never become so much morose, and disappointed when someone says no and doesn't take a book. That's just the nature of the service. Some will say no, won't take a book. Others will say, so others will buy a book. So that's just the nature of the service. So then Krishna said, okay, don't worry, we'll go to plan number 2, okay? Sankirtan strategy number 1 failed, let's go to strategy number 2. This time you go back, but this time instead of approaching the brahmanas, you approach their wives. And as soon as they hear my name, they will definitely give you food. So again, the Kahut boys go, they offer their, pranams to the wives of the brahmanas, and they mention Krishna and Balaram's name. That just in the distance, Krishna and Balaram are there herding their cows, and they're very hungry. We need some food, can you please arrange? As soon as these wives of the brahmanas, as soon as they heard Krishna and Balaram's name, immediately they were overcome by so much love and affection. And immediately they just gathered all the food that they had, all 4 types of foodstuffs, and immediately they ran to give Krishna and his friends all the prasad. Although it's mentioned that their husbands, their brothers, their father-in-law, their mother-in-law, all the members of society who were there in the family, although all of them were forbidding, telling them, don't go. If you go, we'll reject you. You can never come back to our house. Although, their husbands and all these family relatives were forbidding them, stopping them from going, still it's mentioned that out of the intense desire to see Krishna, cultivated by a long time of hearing about him. So it's mentioned in Bhagavatam specifically that they were able to develop so much love and affection for Krishna just by hearing about him. So again, the same point is mentioned in the Shastras, that these ladies, the wives of Brahmanas, they have never seen Krishna in their life because they're not actually from Vrindavan. It's like a village just outside Vrindavan. So they've never actually seen Krishna and Balaram in person. But it's mentioned right from their childhood, they have heard the glories of Krishna. How? It's mentioned according to Acharyas that sometimes the Matajis of Vrindavan, they would travel from Vrindavan to outside. So like fruit ladies, flower ladies who sell flowers, fruits, betel nuts, things like that. So all these ladies of Vrindavan would travel outside to neighboring villages to sell their different articles. So when these Brajvasis would come to their village, all these wives of Brahmanas would hear about Krishna's glories from them. And it's mentioned right from the youth, before they got married, that right from the youth they were hearing these glories about Krishna. And so they were always, hearing and chanting about Krishna. In this way they develop so much love and affection. Similar story is with Rukmini. Rukmini also never actually saw Krishna in person, never had any physical association with Krishna. But different sages like Narad Muni used to come to her house, to her palace, and from then she used to hear about Krishna. And just by hearing, she developed so much love and affection. So again, the same point is repeated again in Shastras, that if we want to develop attachment, love for Krishna, the primary process is by hearing about his glories. So this was the process in which the Dvija Brahmanas, they developed so much attachment to Krishna. That's why when they got married to these Brahmanas noticed that these wives that we have, they don't seem to have so much enthusiasm, in their household duties. Something is different about them, They're not so enthusiastic to do their household affairs. Their mind is always somewhere else. Although externally they're doing cooking and doing all these household things, but their mind is somewhere else, So they doubted the character of their wives because they're always, their mind was always elsewhere, obviously absorbed in Krishna. So that's why these Brahmanas were always keeping a distance from their wives because they thought, they're not chaste, they were doubtful of their character, so they didn't want to associate with their wives so much. So anyway, these wives of the Brahmanas, they rejected their husbands, their brothers, father-in-law, mother-in-law, all the members of society, and they went to serve Krishna. And this we see, through our Shastra. This point is mentioned that for Krishna's service, for the pleasure of Krishna, we should be willing to sacrifice anything. That's the whole point of surrender. Like we see 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj, he sacrificed his relationship with his father. He rejected his father. His father was a demon. He didn't listen to him. He just continued his bhakti. Bali Maharaj, he rejected his own guru, his own spiritual master. Bali Maharaj's own guru was telling him, don't surrender to Vishnu, don't give him, these 3 steps of land. You can break your promise. According to Shastras, there's slight rules and regulations which say you can break your promise, you don't have to do this. But Bali Maharaj rejected even his own guru for the pleasure of Krishna. And again, we see in the Krishna book, the gopis, they reject, again, their husbands, their family and everything, and they go out to dance for Krishna. And again, we're seeing the same thing with the wives of the Brahmanas. So this point that if we want to surrender to Krishna, the sacrifice, we should be willing to give up anything, even mature relationships. Ultimately, the highest principle is to, whatever pleases Krishna, whatever is favorable of Krishna's service, we should take it up. That's the principle of surrender. So for these wives, they immediately run to the forest to see Krishna and the cowherd boys. And from a distance, they get sight of Krishna and Balaram playing. And it's mentioned, through their eyes, they immediately take in Krishna's form through their eyes, put Krishna's transcendental form into their hearts, and in their hearts they embrace Krishna and Balaram. Or they embrace Krishna. And they come and surrender all the food to Krishna. And they ask, say Krishna tells him, what are you ladies doing out here all alone in the forest? Same thing, like same lines Krishna uses for the gopis when the gopis come to dance. When the gopis hear Krishna's flute and they come in the middle of the night to dance with Krishna. And Krishna is telling the gopis, what are you guys doing in the forest so late at night? What will people think? Go back to your house, people will reject you. So same thing Krishna is telling these wives of the Brahmanas. And the Brahmana wives, they're saying, Krishna, please don't speak like this, We've given up everything, we've sacrificed everything to come and surrender unto you. We just want to stay with you and serve you. We don't want to go back, Our husbands, our family, they won't accept us again. We have given up the old mature time, we've come and surrendered unto you. Please don't speak like this. And then Krishna is like, but it won't be appropriate for us to be together, because I'm born in a Vaishnava family, I'm just a simple cowherd boy. And you guys, you're the wives of Brahmanas, you're coming from Brahmana families. So if me and you were together, then what will society think? It won't be appropriate. It will disturb the minds of ordinary people, A Vaishya and Brahmana together, wives of Brahmanas, it won't be appropriate. So in this way, Krishna, he puts down proposal for the Brahmana ladies to stay with Krishna. And then Brahmana ladies, they argue back saying, don't worry, we won't come to Vrindavan and stay with you in Vrindavan. We don't want to embarrass you. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to cause any inconvenience. Instead, what we'll do, we'll just stay at a distance. We won't stay in Vrindavan, but we'll hide in the forest of Vrindavan. And we'll just be in a distance, so that when you walk through the forest of Vrindavan, and the tulsi leaves that fall from your lotus feet on the ground, we can at least get that Mahaprasad, get that tulsi leaves which fall from your lotus feet, and we'll put that on our head. And in this way, we'll be fully satisfied. This way, we'll be fully pleased. So again, we're seeing the great humility of these devotees of Krishna. That they say, don't worry, you don't have to personally be with us all the time. We'll just be in the forest. We'll stay far away from the actual village. We'll just stay in the forest. But all they want is just the tulsi leaves that fall from Krishna's lotus feet. Same thing Lord Brahma prays, Brahma says, if I don't think it's possible for me to take, birth in Vrindavan, it's such a highly elevated position. Instead, just please bless me, Krishna, so that I can be born, it's just like a blade of grass, just outside Vrindavan, so that when the Vrajavasis go outside Vrindavan, so the dust of their lotus feet will fall on my head. So this is the mood of, all the devotees of Lord. They're so humble, just to get a little dust of the lotus feet of devotees, just to get little tulsi that has been offered to Krishna's feet. Just that simple thing just satisfies them so much. But still Krishna tells them, don't worry, please, for you it's better that you go back home and practice devotional service at home. Don't worry about your family, what they'll say. You don't have to worry, they won't reject you. And then Krishna quotes one very nice verse. In this verse Krishna says that it is not by physical proximity that one develops love for me, but it's by hearing, chanting, remembering about me, and by seeing me, by seeing the deity form of me, that one develops love for me. So by these 4 things. One is hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, remembering about Krishna, and by taking darshan of the deity of Krishna. So Krishna says, it is by these 4 things one develops love and affection for me. And it's not by physical proximity. Same thing, Prabhupada, he mentions to the disciples, because during Prabhupada's time, Some disciples, they were like personal servants, secretaries, and they were always physically very close to Prabhupada. Whereas other disciples, they weren't always in close connection with Krishna, in close connection with Prabhupada, physically speaking. So Prabhupada, to pacify them, Prabhupada said that attachment or love for the Guru, it's not based on, physical proximity. Prabhupada says, just like this mosquito. This mosquito is so close to me, he's sitting right on top of me, on top of my skin. Does this mean this mosquito has the greatest love and affection for me? No. So it's not by that, it's actually the bhakti or how much attachment one has inside. So in this way, Krishna instructs the Dvija Patnis, and then they go back home. And then Krishna, as a super soul from the heart of the Brahmanas, he gives them intelligence. And then the Brahmanas, they all start lamenting. Oh, what is the use of all this Shastra we're studying? What is the use of all this sacrifice? Just look how glorious our wives are. They have developed pure love for Krishna. Whereas we, even after studying so much, going through brahmachari training, going through, Vedic sacrifices and studying Shastra so long, we've committed such a great offense. Krishna and Balaram, Supreme Personal Godhead, personally came and begged food from us, saying they're hungry. And we didn't even pay a single attention to them. We've committed such big offense. And then the Brahmanas, they putting themselves down, being very regretful of what they've done. They're saying, just look at these wives of us, Our wives, they never went through second initiation, they didn't get Brahmana initiation, they haven't done any sacrifice to, training, they haven't done any austerities, tapasya, nothing. How come they develop so much love and affection of Krishna? Whereas us, even though we went through brahmachari training, we went through, Shastra training, Vedic sacrifices, second initiation, even though we've done all this, still we haven't developed love for Krishna. So how come it's like this? So the Acharyas explained that these Brahmanas, they didn't understand that right from their youth, these wives of them, they had been constantly hearing about Krishna from the Rajavasis who were traveling through the village. And simply by hearing about them, they developed so much love and affection. So again, the Shastra explains that this is the principal way to develop love and attachment to Krishna, simply by hearing about Krishna's glory and chanting about Krishna's glories. Everything else is secondary. Getting second initiation, learning Vedic sacrifices, memorizing many shlokas, studying Shastra, that's all secondary. Principal form of developing love for Krishna is always hearing about him. So, and if we simply do this, then just like Vidura, Pandavas, and the Yadavas, we can also develop, we can also come to the same level of attachment that they have for Krishna. Okay, we'll stop here. Gantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, entire Gaur Pramanande.